Hello and welcome to episode 400 of the Extraordinary Business Book Club, the quadricentennial edition, which is going to be going out on the 12th of February 2024. Now, usually we would be due for a Best Bits episode, drawing together some highlights from the past few conversations, but I felt that this milestone needed something a bit different. So I'll be doing Best Bits next week, and instead this week it's an Ask Me Anything episode. I put the call out on social media, and it's been a great lesson in being careful what you ask for. It has taken me a very long time to chew over some of these answers. I hope that you enjoy hearing them as much as I've enjoyed the chewing over, and I hope too that it might encourage you to ask some questions of yourself this week, from the playful to the profound, because we have the full range here for you today. So just for a bit of context, I am a publisher as well as a podcaster, and I've written on and run workshops on exploratory writing, so I sort of expected the questions to focus on those, and some did. But for some people, my exercise habits were the thing that they were most interested in. So I run every day, I have done for nearly 6 years now, and I do strength training 3 times a week, and I say that not to brag, okay, maybe a little bit to brag, but mostly to make sense of the first couple of questions. So here we go with the first question from the lovely Emma Thomas.
Hi Alison, it's Emma Thomas here from Managing the Menopause. My question for you is, how can I start running when I absolutely hate running? Thanks.
Love this. So one of the things that I'm most proud of in my life is my part in running Bramley Iron Mum, which I did with friends in our village of Bramley in North Hampshire for 5 years between 2009 and 2014. And the whole premise behind it was a small group of women, all working mums of young children at the time, all of us really wanting to get fit and lose a bit of weight, and all of us finding it impossible to keep up any kind of exercise regime consistently. So what we needed, we decided, was some structure, some camaraderie, and a goal. So we set up Iron Mum. We started training on the village green when the clocks went forward in 2009, and we organised an event for the September, which is a very, very tongue-in-cheek triathlon. A run, a bike ride, and a sprint carrying weighted crates of wine. And there were 4 of us on that first evening of training, 30th of March 2009, and by the time Iron Mum ended in 2014, there were 160 women on the books. And not only did I meet some of my best friends over those 5 years, I transformed from not a runner to a runner. All of which is a very long-winded way of saying, find yourself some structure, some camaraderie, and a goal. So our newbie programme was a walk-run sequence, 2 minutes walking, minute running at the start, gradually building up over the weeks until people were running for 20 minutes straight. It doesn't take that long, honestly, and you feel epic when you've done your first non-stop run. Couched 5K is a great programme. I don't know what it is, but it's so much easier to do this when there's a voice telling you when to start and stop, rather than trying to do it yourself. So that's one answer, because I love running so much and I really want everyone to do it. But there is another answer too, which is, you know what? If you've tried running, if you've really tried it and you still really hate it, maybe you just find something else. You know, whatever works for you. Just get outdoors, move, and do it regularly, because it makes you happy as well as making you stronger and healthier and more effective at work and all that good stuff. The next question is about fitness too. I do find it hilarious that I've come to a place in my life where I am even remotely qualified to answer questions like this. I tell you, my PE teacher at school would not have believed this.
Hello Alison, this is Martin Farrell. I've got a question for you, and it's about strength training, not for those over 50, well, sort of over 50, but actually men over 70. I've just joined a gym. Yesterday, did my first session. I want to know your top 3 bits of advice for a man over 70 doing strength training. That's the first one. Actually, I've got a second one as well. How do you know if someone is a wild swimmer when you walk into a party? Answer, you don't need to know, because they will come and tell you, as you did in one of your recent communications. There we are. Join the club. Have fun.
Yes, very funny, Martin. I've heard the marathon version of that too, and indeed the ultra-marathon version. Look, just be happy for us. Smile and nod and be kind, because maybe one day this is going to be you. But to take your actual question, top 3 bits of advice for a mature person doing strength training. Obviously, I have no special insight into what works for a man over 70, sorry, but I hope this is still useful. And the first is just find your people. You know, you need a gym where you feel at home and not intimidated or sidelined. There are gyms and there are gyms. So find one that feels welcoming and where you feel well supported. So big shout out to Jed and Stefan and the Winnington Gym 6am crew, if you are listening. Probably not. The second is to focus on form rather than weight. And there's no point getting your deadlift PB if you do your back in. And the last one is to eat more protein. You really need it when you're building muscle, and it's surprisingly hard to eat enough of it. I've taken to adding a scoop of protein powder into my porridge once it's cooked in the morning, or into a bowl of Greek yogurt for a dessert. And actually now I feel quite hungry, so going to move on quickly.
Hi Alison, this is Lauren Neal. I'm the author of Valued at Work, Shining a Light on Bias to Engage, Enable and Retain Women in STEM. So my question to you is, with all the books that Practical Inspiration Publishing has published and the wide range of author backgrounds, if you could select one or two traits that all the authors have in common, other than writing a business book, of course, what would it be?
Ooh, Lauren, this one really made me think. I don't know about all of our authors, because to be fair, there are nearly 200 now, but the overwhelming majority of our authors are just really, really nice. And that's a terrible word, but honestly, they're just so much fun to work with and so collaborative and good-natured. You know, there's a lot of decisions and deadlines involved in publishing, and they are just generally all very responsive and easy to work with. So that's a very human answer. And it's probably the trait that has the single biggest impact on our lives within the team in terms of quality of life. But I guess there's another answer too, and that is that they are not wanting to settle. You know, they don't just want to bang out a book and get it out there as quickly as possible. They really lean into the coaching and the challenging, and they do the hard yards, and the books that we produce are so much better as a result. I think this might be because I'm very good at putting off authors who do want to bang out a book and get it out there quickly in our initial exploratory conversation. But I do still think it's a defining feature of our lot, and it's one of the reasons I'm so proud of the list. And Lauren, this very much includes you. An equally thought-provoking question next.
My name is Gary Hosey. I am the founder of EI Company, a small boutique emotional intelligence coaching, facilitation, development organisation that specialises in working with leaders and senior leadership teams, and we also equip and certify training professionals to use the EQI tools. What's your one big, albeit lesser known, tip for writing your first book?
See, lesser known, that's a tricky word there, because what I think is lesser known might not be what you think is lesser known. So I'm just going to play it safe and say, write a proposal first. Before you start trying to fill a page with words, get clear on who you're writing for and what problem you're solving for them, and dig into that. How do you know that that's a problem for them? What words are they using to describe it? What are the presenting symptoms that they're trying to fix? Because if you're not clear on that and you don't start where they are rather than where you are with all the answers, there'll always be a discovery gap. And a proposal will also force you to articulate the big promise or the big idea of your book and take a stab at structuring it and thinking about how you're going to promote it and what needs to be put in place now to make that happen down the line. Do you know, all the questions that a publisher needs to know the answers to when they're evaluating a book's viability are all the questions that you need to know the answer to before you start writing, no matter how you plan to publish. And if you're planning to go down the traditional or partnership publishing route, for goodness sake, pitch the proposal and a sample. Don't write the whole flipping manuscript before you approach an editor or an agent. It's not like fiction. Yes, you have to do that in fiction, but with non-fiction, with business books in particular, they will have ideas and suggestions that are going to make the book so much better, and you will hate them for it if you've already sweated over 60,000 carefully polished words. And Gary had an equally important follow-up question too.
Which is your go-to, always love, have to lick the knife peanut butter of choice?
This, my friends, is the easiest so far. It is Waitrose Essentials Whole Nut Peanut Butter. Luckily, this is one of the cheapest out there. It's just perfect. It isn't greasy, it's just got the right level of crunch and salt. Honestly, I could just sit with a spoon and a jar and be perfectly happy. I go into Northwich Waitrose every now and again and just go to the till with 8 jars of the stuff in my basket. Basically, I empty the shelf. I don't know what their stock system makes of it. Back to business books, and 2 very similar questions, plus another peanut butter related one.
Hi Alison, my name's Kath Bishop and I'm the author of The Long Win, published with Practical Inspiration Publishing, and an Olympic rower, former diplomat, now working in leadership and culture development, and general lover of business books. My one question to you is to ask, what's one area that business books haven't really tackled yet? I'd love to know your thoughts. Thanks.
Hi Alison, it's Lucy Ryan here, author of Revolting Women, Why Midlife Women Walk Out and What to Do About It. So for your Ask Alison episode, here are my questions. What topic for a business book has yet to be covered? What's missing from this genre? I've got a picture of you in my head doing a business book challenge and someone comes up with an idea and you think, oh, I've been waiting for that one. And lastly, have you tried smoked chili peanut butter yet? Bye.
I love the way Lucy snuck her peanut butter related question in there. And I'm going to answer that one first because it's easiest. No, I haven't. But I will now. The things you don't know, eh? But back to the real question that both Kath and Lucy asked is what's missing? What haven't business books tackled yet? And the answer is, I'll know it when I see it. Honestly, whenever you come up with an idea for a book and you look around and there is genuinely absolutely no competition, not that you just haven't looked for it, but there actually isn't any competition there, nobody's writing about this at all, it probably means that there's not going to be a whole market for your book. There are exceptions to this. So there had to be a first book on AI, for example, or TikTok. But with over 3 billion books on Amazon, you'd better believe most niches are served. Honestly, I don't think it's about the area per se. For me, it's more about the approach. So if you imagine yourself as the author at the intersection of a number of Venn diagram circles, what is your unique mix of experience and expertise and passions and way of being? And if you can find an approach to a topic that draws on those intersections and that's authentically, uniquely you, that is what I love to see. Because you can help me see things differently, even things I thought I knew, because you bring a new perspective to the table. So to quote C.S. Lewis, no one who bothers about originality will ever be original. Whereas if you simply try to tell the truth without caring tuppence how often it's been told before, you will, 9 times out of 10, become original without ever having noticed it. Another really tough question, which had me thinking for hours, came from Ollie Banks.
Hi Alison, it's Oliver Banks here, author of Driving Retail Transformation. And firstly, a massive congratulations on 400 podcast episodes. That is epic. And another big congratulations for 10 years of practical inspiration. Absolutely massive. Now, through all of your different proposal challenges and of course the myriad of books that you've published, you must have come across so many different ideas and interacted with so many experts. So what I would love to know is, given all of that wealth of knowledge and insight, what have you learned and picked up from all of the different authors?
I mean, that's a big question, isn't it? How do you answer that? And of course, this podcast as well, because I've spoken to hundreds of fascinating guests over the last 6 years or so, and I've learned so much from them. Let's just say I'm really good on a quiz team. My brain is rammed with half-remembered facts and ideas. It's even worse than you know, Ollie. I edited the Chambers Dictionary quotations in the early 90s, and they're all still rattling around in there somewhere. And don't get me started on the Oxford Companions. So it's completely impossible to give a comprehensive answer here. So instead, I'm going to abstract a principle from it. I have learned the value of range. And this is, of course, a business book in itself by David Epstein. Range, How Generalists Triumph in a Specialised World. When you know a lot of stuff, even if not in huge detail, you're better at making connections and seeing patterns and intersections, and that's very good for your brain generally, and your creativity in particular. I think that being an expert in one field is a very fine thing, but for me, the joy is in partnering with experts in their field to help them communicate that expertise to the rest of us. Being an expert in book structuring, I guess, it's a bit more than being an editor because there's a commercial dimension to it too, and it's honestly the best job in the world, until someone pays me to eat peanut butter. Right, another fiendish question from Susana Martinez de Neer, author of Insatiable Leaders.
Hello, my name is Susanna. I've been working with Practical Inspiration Publishing over the last 6 months to write a book named Insatiable Leaders for Leaders Who Lead Transformation. And I'm about to finish the last edits over the next days. So I'm very close to the finish line. I almost can't see it. And the question I have for you, Alison, is if you had to create your own AI software for practical inspiration authors, how would it look like to guide us through different stages of the writing process? So basically, what I want to know is what would have made my life a bit easier over the last months. Thank you so much, and congratulations on the 400th birthday of your podcast.
This is a great question, because my initial answer is, that's the whole point. All the hard yards that you've done over the last months, Susanna, they are one of the main reasons for writing a business book. It's not just about the output, it's about the deepening, clarifying process that you go through to shape and develop your ideas. And if you try to delegate that to AI, then what's the point? If you do the hard yards, that depth and clarity become part of who you are, and they inform how you use your expertise and talk about your intellectual property in the world forever. So you might hate me right now, but this is transformational stuff, and I am not about to cheat anybody out of that. And yes, you've got me thinking about how we can support authors more proactively in the early stages, particular, to do the things that AI is excellent for as an assistant. So, for example, it can help you identify the key thinkers in an area and summarise their ideas. It can get you out of a hole when you're stuck. It can take on the role of readers. What questions do they have about this? It can help you shorten a chapter that's 2,000 words too long. And this question makes me realise that as well as our AI usage policy, I need to create a new course for PyQ, our author e-learning platform, setting out some of the ways that you can ethically use AI as an assistant when you're writing a book and how to be transparent about that. So thank you for that, Susanna. I'm on it. Right, you might think that there have been some tough questions so far, but you haven't seen anything yet. Ian, you're on.
Hi, this is Ian Pettigrew of Kingfisher Coaching, and I'm the author of a forthcoming book called Hope is a Strategy, which is a leadership book all about how to help people find hope. Alison, big picture question for you. I'm really interested in two things. One is kind of, why do you do what you do? You know, I see you doing loads of amazing things. I've benefited from those. So I'm really interested in why you do what you do. And what are you hoping for? What's your kind of big picture? You know, when you get to sit back and say, yeah, wow, I did that. I'm really satisfied. Thank you very much.
Why do I do what I do? And what am I hoping for? I think you can see probably why I've saved these enormous questions to the end. First, I guess it's important for you to know that I am a Christian. So that really informs everything I do, not infallibly, as my family will tell you, but in the big, broad scheme of things, that's the North Star, that's the underlying principle. And I don't think any subsequent translation has put it better than the King James Bible. This is Colossians 3, verse 23. And whatsoever ye do, do it heartily, as to the Lord and not unto men. So whatever I do, I try to do it as heartily as possible, with heart and gratitude and integrity and from a place of service. And as I say, I mess up on this every day, but if you're asking me for the most foundational why, that's it. And in terms of being satisfied, that kind of approach is its own reward because you don't care so much about external validation or other people's recognition. So I guess the next question is why books and writing specifically? And I can remember very clearly the moment that I realised that I wanted to be a publisher. I was actually enrolled on a conversion course to become a lawyer, and I woke up one morning with this horrible, gut-wrenching certainty that actually I didn't want to be a lawyer. It wasn't right for me, but I had no idea what I should do instead. And this was just a few weeks before my university finals during the Easter holidays, when I should have been focusing on revision and preparation. But I was just so unsettled by this, I couldn't focus. So I took a whole day out from exam prep, and I spent it in Stockport Library with a copy of What Colour Is Your Parachute and quite a bit of prayer, trying to work out what the heck it was I was supposed to be doing with my life. And I'm still not sure if it was the work that I was doing with the book or the praying, but I remember vividly sitting back, looking around me at this beautiful library and having that epiphany. Oh, this is it. This is what I want to do. I want to make books. Because they are, as Neil Gaiman put it, a uniquely portable form of magic. They take human ideas across space and time, and they let us enter into a co-creative dialogue with brilliant minds. They capture the best of each person so that it can be built on by other people, and I have loved them all my life. So I went back to Edinburgh, and I somehow fell into a job in publishing, and the rest is history. That's a story for another day. So next time I have an Any Questions episode, feel free to ask me about that. It's quite a good story. So I spent about 25 years of my life in traditional publishing, starting as an editorial assistant, ending up as Director of Innovation Strategy. I was a pioneer of digital publishing in the 90s and early 2000s. It was an incredibly exciting time, but also a very disruptive time. Everything we thought we knew about publishing, and particularly about making money from it, was thrown up in the air, and we were talking about the death of the book on a kind of daily basis. Turns out the book is way more resilient than we thought back then, but I did realise gradually that the old model of publishing was becoming more and more unsatisfactory in this new content economy. And working with business authors in particular, there was a tension between what the publisher wants, which is of course to maximise the revenue from book sales, because that's how they make their money, and what the author wants, which is reputational capital, business development, and building their brand as opposed to the publisher's brand. So for business book writers, the book itself isn't the product in the way that it is for a novelist, say. And as it's got harder and harder to make a decent profit as a publisher, the experience of authors and the level of support that they receive, because remember, business book authors, they're not professional writers. The level of control that they have over things like cover design, because remember, this has to work alongside their brand, all of that was just going in the wrong direction. And that was the really simple but profound economic shift that gave me the vision for Practical Inspiration Publishing. If the author is paying for publishing services because they realise the value of this book for their business, that's where the ROI is, then we can provide all that support, and we can collaborate with them on design, and we can use all our publishing expertise and distribution and marketing to create a really, really good, really beautiful book that will do them proud and that will generate sustainable profits for us. And of course, the big question then is, how do you ensure quality? An awful lot of partnership publishers will take your money to publish anything, and that's no good for readers. And that's why we have a concept review stage before we take on any author, because it's our name on that book as well as yours. And in terms of being satisfied as a publisher, every time that I do that work with an author and see them shift into a new level of clarity or work out a more powerful way to structure and communicate their ideas, and particularly every time I see an unboxing video and see their delight in this beautiful book that is the expression of them in the world, it doesn't get better than that, honestly. Well, actually it does, I suppose, because it's then pretty marvellous seeing the translated editions land on my desk and seeing the books on shelves in bookshops and reading brilliant reviews of the books, because then you know it's getting out there, it's doing its job, it's making life and work just that little bit better for readers. There's no point publishing a beautiful book if it doesn't get out there and do what it's meant to do. And I guess what's surprised me more recently, and what I'm equally passionate about now, is that it's not just about helping people write great books and publish them, the output, if you like, it's about the process. And I don't know exactly when it was that I realised that not everyone understood that writing for its own sake was probably the most powerful thinking tool that we have. It's a bit of a slow burn revelation. And then I discovered first free writing, and then the more purposeful version of that I call exploratory writing. And then I started trying that out with people for its own sake, not in the service of writing a book, or at least not immediately. And it was like another Stockport Library moment. It's like, this, you know? And I think as we grapple with the impact of AI on everything we do, it's more important than ever. I'm going to finish answering Ian's big questions, and indeed this episode, by plagiarising myself. This is the end of a talk that I gave recently at Manchester Technology Centre, talking about exploratory writing as a way of looking inside our brains. I hope you can also see that as we move forward into a world in which we delegate more and more of our written outputs to AI, that using writing as a thinking tool, rather than just as a way of generating content, is going to be one of our most critical human skills. Sometimes it's not the outcome that turns out to be the most important thing, but the process, because the process changes us. Why does any of this matter? Because look around you. The technical term for what we're facing at the global level is a polycrisis. Closer to home, I bet you can identify more local crises of your own, and probably the main contributing factor to every aspect of these multifaceted crises is our unwillingness to look thoughtfully at our own thinking, to take responsibility for it, to articulate and challenge the stories that we tell ourselves, and to consider the stories that other people might be telling themselves. We need to do better. Individually, within organisations, within nations, as a species. And if that doesn't start with individuals, with you and me, then I don't know how it starts at all. And this is one task that we cannot, dare not, delegate to computers. This is on us. It sounds ironic, but it might just be that one of our most ancient skills, writing, mark making, can help us face the challenges of a future our ancestors could never have imagined. So thank you so much to everyone who sent in a question. I really enjoyed answering them. You've made me think, and I've got some new insights and ideas out of that process. And there we are. QED, that's what this is all about. Curiosity, connection, creativity, the 3 founding values of Practical Inspiration Publishing. So happy 400th episode, the Extraordinary Business Book Club podcast, and happy 10th birthday, Practical Inspiration Publishing. And here's to lots more good questions to come.
Mum, what's for dinner?
I don't know, but I'll work it out.